It's the end of an era. On Monday, January 26th, Neptune officially enters Aries, leaving Pisces where it has been since 2011. That alone is a big deal because it's rare. Neptune has a 165-year orbit, so we are closing out both a 14-year cycle and a 165-year cycle. What makes this historically significant is what Neptune represents and then what Aries activates. So as a futurist, I utilize astrology as a data set, similar to how an economist would use data models and how a technologist would track week cycles. Astrology isn't about predicting what's going to happen. Rather, it reveals to us signals that help us make sense of what is dissolving and what is emerging. And Neptune is the planet of collective myths, belief systems, illusions, spirituality, escapism, and surrender. Neptune has been in its home sign of Pisces from 2011 to 2026. And during this era, we saw an abundance of spiritual awakenings and spiritual bypassing. We saw mass disillusionment with institutions, media, escapism through tech, substances, fantasy, and a lot of stuff about vibes. We saw the rise of identity fluidity, blurred boundaries, and a lot of meaning crisis that has only just begun. During these last 14 years, the world has felt increasingly foggy, overwhelming, and hard to orient inside of. So Pisces energy dissolves, it erodes, it blurs boundaries, it melts certainty. And this is one of the reasons why so many people this last 14 years have spent a lot of time searching, healing, checking out. But now with Neptune moving into Aries, everything is changing. Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. It is the beginning. It is action, initiation, fire. It is conflict. It is courage. It is about identity. When Neptune enters Aries, the collective question shifts from what do I believe to what am I willing to stand for? Neptune in Pisces was about dissolving borders, whether through globalism or expanded consciousness. But as this era comes to an end, it's no longer about dissolving into oneness. It's about embodying belief through action, meaning strong identity, whether individually, in groups, or a rise in things like nationalism. And why do I say this? Well, history gives us receipts. The last time Neptune was in Aries was 1861 to 1875, and during that time, the American Civil War began. Ideological identity became worth fighting for. We saw national myths being rewritten in blood and conviction. We saw the founding of the Red Cross, which was compassion born through conflict. The Geneva Conventions emerged. This was ethics forged through war. That era was not peaceful, but it was incredibly defining. The thing about Neptune and Aries is that it's not about avoiding conflict. It spiritualizes it. It turns belief into movement. And we actually had a preview of this energy last year, and that revealed to us a lot of what is coming next. And we had that preview last year from March 30th to October 22nd when Neptune briefly dipped into Aries and then retrograded and moved back into Pisces. And during that window, we saw heightened polarization around identity and ideology. We saw more people taking really bold stances, often emotionally and not necessarily rationally. We saw a significant surge in the energy around the idea of this is who I am. And we saw some early signals of belief-driven movements, not just based on opinions, but movements. And that was nothing even close to the main event. That was simply a trailer, just a tiny little preview. So now the real chapter begins, lasting until 2039. So here's some of what we are likely to see next. On a collective level, I expect we're going to see identity becoming more political, more spiritual, and more embodied. More movements led by belief, not necessarily consensus. We're going to see a collapse around passive spirituality, and we're going to see a rise in action-based ethics. Essentially, it's not about what you believe, it's what do you do with what you believe. And we're going to see that leaders become those who initiate, those who move first, not necessarily perfectly, but decisively. So nothing about this transit is quiet. It is controversial, it is a spark, it is all about initiative. So now here's how to use this energy personally. Neptune in Aries is asking, where have you been waiting instead of acting? Where have you been healing instead of leading? Where do you feel called but have not moved yet? This era rewards embodied action, clear identity, courage over comfort, action aligned with purpose. You don't need certainty, you don't even need clarity, you just need direction. And this is why I track astrology as a futurist and a performance strategist. It's not about predicting outcomes, it is about optimizing timing, behavior, and identity. And Neptune in Aries is just one of the many cycles that are converging that I am tracking and helping my clients utilize to create effective strategies. And when I work with leaders, founders, and high impact individuals, I am looking at when pressure shifts, when motivation ignites, when hesitation ultimately becomes too costly, because Neptune in Aries is a performance signal. And this is just one of the signals that are essentially all saying something very similar. It's that the future is not going to be built by those who feel ready. It's going to be shaped by those who move with conviction, who refine in motion, and who let their identity be forged through action. This is the end of the fog, the end of drifting, the end of waiting for permission. You're realizing you are your own authority, and to be waiting on somebody else is to put yourself at a massive disadvantage. So the question I want you to ask yourself is this: what are you willing to initiate, even if the path isn't fully clear yet?